Hey everyone, so today in this video I wanted to do my labor and delivery story. I was looking at footage that I got when I was in the hospital. It's not a whole ton, but I was looking at the footage that I had captured and I knew I needed to fill in the gaps. So the way I'm going to do this video is I'm going to be doing some talk through and then inserting some clips that I did actually get. I do have to say I am a little disappointed in the amount of footage or lack thereof that I got during the actual delivery, but I guess I wasn't thinking about it. I guess I wasn't thinking really planning ahead of time, and there are much worse things to be disappointed about in terms of a whole labor and delivery process. So I'm counting my lucky stars and so thankful that it went pretty well, like very smoothly. So I am just gonna have to forgive myself that I don't have like a ton of footage. So what ended up happening was I had been going to see the OB weekly to just like get checked up and things like that. And leading up to the point I requested to be scheduled to be induced. I did discuss with her in terms of like if I'm dilated or not, whether the baby's ready, whether it should be on the due date or if we should wait a little bit and things like that. She said if I was 2 centimeters, then it would be good, you know, it would be good to be induced. If I wasn't 2 centimeters, then maybe we could wait a few days. So I saw my OB at the day before my due date, and I forget honestly how far along. I think I was maybe 2 centimeters ish, to like either 1.5 stretching to 2 or 2 centimeters that could stretch a little bit more. But I was good to go the day before my due date to be induced the next day. In my previous pregnancy I had a little blood come out. I was 5 centimeters, and that was a really quick and easy delivery. So I was a little disappointed, I guess, that I wasn't more dilated, but my body was showing signs that I was starting to dilate at least a little bit, enough that she said it would be okay to induce the next day. So my induce was hungry, so now I am feeding him right now. And okay, so I was scheduled to be induced at 10 in the morning, so I was able to do drop off for both the girls, and drove myself to the hospital, and well, me and my mom to the hospital, and just walked in. So we are at the hospital. It is a cloudy day. And here's the belly. Here's my rolling bag. Mom's up in front. This is it. It's actually pretty cool today. It's really my gripe about the weather. Check-in was really easy because I pre-registered, and I just had to wait for a couple of minutes in the waiting room. So we were in the waiting room. I think on the other one's there. When I was in the waiting room, there was another pregnant woman there with probably her mom, and then a nurse came in, and she was like so happy to see this person. So I imagine that they were friends or they knew each other or whatever, and then they got up and they walked, because I started to vlog during that time when the nurse came in, and then they shortly came back, and it ended up being that the nurse wasn't supposed to pick up that woman who she knew. She was supposed to pick up me. So so that was kind of a little awkward, I guess, because I was like, oh, sorry to disappoint you. Sorry, I'm the one that you actually had to take. So we went to the delivery room, and it looked exactly the same as last time, honestly. So I did like a little tour of what it looked like. So I am in my hospital gear and we're in the room. It was really fast. I only had to be in the waiting room for a couple minutes, and I'm gonna do a quick room tour before the nurse comes back. So this is the bed, and this is what it looked like last time. So it looks like that. There's a second bed, then the monitor, station, nice entrance, audience seats, baby warming stuff. There's a sink back there, all the baby stuff, baby bassinets, and that's what it looks like. Very nice room. Mom. And then here's the bathroom. Here's the shower. There's the belly. Do this without showing and exposing anything but the belly. And yeah. And then it was just a ton of waiting. So like I said, I got there at 10. We waited just like a couple minutes before we got into the delivery room. Fast forward, they said I had to do like kind of like a check-in where she like asked me a bunch, you know, the nurse asked me a bunch of questions and whatever. But essentially, what they said was, okay, we're gonna just break your water. And I was not prepared for that to happen. I was like, oh, wait, aren't we going to start the medication first to be induced and then break the water? You know, like if, you know, to make things progress quicker later after we do the induction. And she's like, oh, is that what you want? Because your OB ordered just to break your water right away, and then that would make things progress faster. And I wasn't quite sure, I wasn't prepared for that. And my mom and I were like Google searching, like, is it better to do the medication or to just break your water? And we kind of came to the opinion that it might be better if we start the medication first, because once you break your water, we think that you only have a certain amount of time before the baby needs to come out. And because I wasn't even dilated that much or as far along as I was with my previous delivery, maybe it would buy us more time and things like that. And plus, that's how it was done last time. I got medication first and then they broke my water. So she talked to the doctor and the doctor was okay with that. And so that was kind of like a curveball, but that kind of resolved or whatever. And then so I got there at 10 and they didn't, and then I was starting to get really impatient because it took forever for the nurse to put in my IV, because you need the IV to get the medication. And at that point it was like 12 already, and then the nurse didn't even, the nurse wasn't coming in to visit me. I think what she did was she brought me to the room and then she admitted another patient before she admitted me. Like admitted meaning like go through all those questions and things like that. So I have a feeling I was ahead of the person in the waiting room, but she wanted to do the person in the waiting room first. That's just conspiracy theory. But she just took a really long time to come back and get everything started. So honestly, I didn't start the medication until 1 o'clock. And I kept having to I had to call the front desk because the nurse's button wasn't working, or she wasn't responding to it or whatever. And I was like, when are we going to start this? And I guess I was kind of a little antsy about it because I just remember last time my IV and the medication, it just went very quickly. Like they started it right away, and or like within an hour at least, and I had been there in the delivery room for 3 hours and nothing had progressed or nothing had started. And I was concerned because my OB probably was working the night shift or whatever, and she wanted to get off of work, so I wanted her to deliver my baby versus the incoming doctor who was after her. Because if my OB wasn't going to deliver me. The next doctor who came in would have, and I would prefer if my OB was going to deliver the baby. And as well, my mom had to leave to, like, I know you can't plan your labor and delivery, but because the other one had progressed so fast, they were like, oh, the third one's just gonna go just as quick, if not quicker. And you know, I was hoping, or my mom, you know, we were fake planning that she would leave around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and it was 1 o'clock and I hadn't even gotten the medication yet. So I was getting a little tense, I have to admit. So here's the update. I've been here for about 3 hours, now it's like almost 3.5 hours, and we just started the medication. And so, like, I don't remember it taking so long. Yeah, so now all I have to do is wait. I think the contractions have started to increase. Currently eating
I'm on liquid diet apparently, so lemon flavored, reduced calorie sorbet. Yeah, no progress.
and so I think I kind of annoyed her a little bit. She was like, the nurse was like, well, you've only been here for 2 hours. And I was like, actually I've been here for 3 hours. And I think that kind of annoyed her. And she was like, okay, let's do this. And then she was like, I'm gonna ramp this medication up really fast. And she's like, you asked for it. I didn't ask for anything. I just wanted to get started a little bit earlier than 3 hours later after my check-in. So finally, around like 3 hours after I got there, like around 1 o'clock, we finally started the medication. And it kind of worked pretty quickly. Like I started to feel increasing pain of the contractions, whereas my last one, when I came in at 5 centimeters, I didn't feel the contractions until they broke my water. So I was feeling like more increasing contractions. And then at 3 o'clock, so after about 2 hours, my OB came, and I was like so thankful that she came, because at that point I wanted my water to be broken. Like, I wanted to progress, which I did, and then I wanted the water to be broken, but I didn't think that she was going to come in until like 5 o'clock when she was done clinic. But she did come at 3, so it was like perfect timing. And because I think that's how it was with my last delivery. Like, did couple hours of the medication, and then did the broke the water, and then the baby came shortly after. So she broke my water. It was quick and easy. And they prepared for the anesthesiologist to come in shortly after my water broke, after they broke my water. And he came in, he did his thing. I was in quite a bit of pain, and she's like, the nurse kept saying like, oh, you're progressing really fast. And they weren't checking me, and I guess retrospectively, I guess they don't want to check you. They don't want to stick their finger up too often. But I was like, how do you know? And she's like, seeing how much pain you're in, we know that you're progressing really quickly. And even the nurse was surprised how quickly I was progressing, even though I told her my last pregnancy, or my last delivery, was very quick. My last pregnancy was probably like, or my last delivery was, I went in at 9 and the baby was out by 2:30. So the anesthesiologist gave me the medication. It felt better, thankfully. But then, like, on the right side of my lower belly, I started to feel like pain. I continued to feel pain there, and what he had to do was he had to come back and I guess give me a little bit more medication, because I don't know if he didn't give me enough, or if it was like inserted the wrong, probably wasn't not inserted the wrong way. He probably just didn't give me enough. So I was like, I feel pain like on the lower right side of my belly, which didn't happen in my previous pregnancies. So he gave me a little bit more medication that eased that pain. And then all of a sudden it was time to push, and there were a lot more people in the room than my last time. And so there was the doctor, there was the nurse that was kind of like helping me throughout the whole thing, and then another nurse, and then the pediatric nurse was ready and waiting, and I think there was one other pediatric person there as well. So there was like 1, 2, 3, like there was like 4 or 5 people there, whereas in my last pregnancy I feel like there were only 2 people, the doctor and the nurse, and maybe the pediatric nurse maybe came later. So, and my mom was kind of like at the back of the room, and this time she's on a walker, and last time she wasn't on the walker. And also, like, we didn't coordinate like, oh, I really want you to take a video, even though I did want her to take the video, but I was like so stressed out about the doctor having to leave early and then my mom having to leave early. And I was prepared to do this delivery on my own. It's just that because the nurse was like rarely came in to check up on me, I was kind of concerned about being by myself, honestly, because if the nurse's button wasn't working and I had to use my phone to call the front desk, it was just like I needed an advocate, I guess, or someone who could, like, I don't know, help me get stuff, or you know, help me get a nurse or whatever. So basically I didn't get footage of the delivery. And so anyway, I started pushing. They were like, okay, you're ready, let's start pushing. I felt like I pushed for a while, and it was longer than my other 2 deliveries, I feel like, but in the long run it was probably just 20 minutes I was pushing, but it felt longer, and I think it was longer than my previous 2 pregnancies, or my previous 2 deliveries. I keep saying pregnancies, but my previous 2 deliveries. And at near the end, I think the head was out. Near the end, I kind of like, I think the doctor was like, so wait, stop pushing. And I saw, like, I was like, oh no, I was like, what's wrong? And I was like looking at this new nurse on the side of me. I was like, what's wrong? And then the nurse was like, everything's fine, everything's perfect, you're doing a great job, everything's perfect. And I did see the OB reach for, like, there's like a little table behind her with like some tools. I did see her reach for like either it was scissors or a clamp or whatever. And I had later found out that the cord was wrapped around the baby's neck, but they had no suspicion that it was, because his heart rate had maintained consistently throughout the whole delivery process. So I guess my mom was telling me that she cut the cord really quickly, and once his head was out, his head was the hardest thing to get out, and probably because he had a big head, but his head was hardest to get out. Once his head was out, and I could feel, even though I had an epidural, I could feel his head being out, and I knew that 1 or 2 more pushes, his whole body would slide out. So the head was definitely the hardest part. And so once he was out, it was like the baby was out, and then they just like put him right on top of me, because they promote skin to skin in the first hour, and they definitely did. So you put him on top of me, there's all these hands trying to like wipe him down and whatever, and it was just very like, it almost seemed a little frantic, but it was magical. That's like the only word I could think of.
Delivery records. I'll give you a report and then I'll finish. And see her came to
20 minutes old.
So,
but and he was good, he was healthy, he was breathing, and I was so glad it was over, because at that time he was delivered around 5 o'clock. So really, honestly, it was only a 4-hour process, but because I had gotten there at 10 and woken up at 7 or 6:45 to drop off the girls, it had been a long day. It had been longer than my last delivery. So at that point, and 20 minutes of pushing, I think, and not having eaten, because for some reason this time they didn't want me to eat when they finally started the medication at 1 o'clock. They didn't want me to eat anything except like a clear liquid diet, and they gave me like beef broth soup, which I obviously didn't drink. I had a little bit of some like sorbet, and that was pretty much all that I had. I actually did sneak in a little bit of cookie because I did bring in a cookie, but yeah, so I was pretty exhausted at that point, but I was so relieved that it had finished. So he was on me for an hour. My mom had left about half an hour after he was delivered, so she left around probably 5:30 so she can get back to the girls. And then I felt like I was in the delivery room for a lot longer than I was in my last delivery. So I didn't leave until probably 7:30. And again, I was just pretty exhausted. And also when he was delivered, I didn't get really any photos on this nicer camera. So again, a little bit of regret not having gotten, you know, better photos and photos with me and the baby, me, the baby, and my mom. But you know, it is what it is. I did get some footage of him getting weighed and him getting a bath, which I will insert here.
Kilograms first and then pounds.
Okay.
Okay. 3.4 kilos.
Okay.
7 pounds, 8 ounces.
Nice. Perfect.
Mister. See how much you are.
He has a nice round head. Didn't mold too much.
So later on in the evening, I was FaceTiming with the two girls at home, and my 2-year-old was just over the moon. Like, she was just so excited. It was like during their bedtime, and they were doing like reading, and she's like, "Where's the baby? Where's the baby?" And she's like, "Oh no, baby's crying, baby's crying," and she was just so excited, and she was just so excited. So that was really fun to watch.
Baby crying! Baby crying! Let's go check! Let's go baby!
Where's
Still have battery? No, baby crying. Let's go.
Do you like the baby?
Oh, I'll get to you.
Where's Esteana? I'm making a video.
I'm here.
Oh, you see the baby?
Yeah, the baby crying.
Yeah, the baby is crying. The baby
I'm
miss
reading a book.
the baby wants to meet you.
I'm reading a book.
Oh, which book are you reading?
Richard Scary. This is scary.
Oh, what part are you reading?
Right now we are on school.
School?
Oh, then they
What is this guy doing?
Is that funny? Is that funny?
Oh, what is it?
Sorry.
This is a color.
Sorry.
Yeah, this guy is this guy. This is
All right, baby needs to feed. And so I am editing this video, and it is way longer than I thought it was going to be. Even just the labor and delivery part is just half an hour. So I'm going to cut this short, and then I'm going to have a part 2, labor and delivery, even though it's kind of like at post-delivery, but it's like the rest of my hospital stay that I'll put in a separate video, and that will be the next one published. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are not subscribed already, and I will see you in my next video. Look out for part 2 for the rest of my hospital stay. Bye.